Hey guys, what's up? So we left off right here where we were able to get the call and make a fetch and get the data back from that specific piece of the JSON format API that we have, which is only this right here, okay? Because that's what we're going to need for the array of objects, okay? We know that we're dealing with an array of several objects in it, okay? So that's what we're going to work with. So I could potentially just, before I leave anywhere else, I wanted to make sure that I can set this result here into my state. So, and this is not something that we're going to be testing yet, but I'll make sure that I want to have it there because eventually we will need it. So there you go. So now the state, the results are going to be set inside of the set state, which is going to send it to the state. So that will be available for me to call inside here by just calling state and then mapping it and do whatever I have to do. So I'm just going to save that, but we're not going to use it just yet. All right. So let's go to the help of the SRC folder right here, and let's create a new folder and let's call it helpers. So what's going to happen here is basically we're going to create a component, a reusable component. I'm going to call it custom box. So I'm just going to call it custom box right here, custom box JSX, and do that. So basically what this custom box is going to be used is to create the UI structure of what we're trying to do so that we can have it there. And then we can go ahead and use this custom box right here as a template, so to speak, to use on all of the other pages without having to code this over and over and over and over and over. All right. So this is going to be a little bit complicated and a little bit hard to understand how it's put together. And obviously it took me a while to figure, to put it all together. I didn't just code it one line by line, knowing exactly what I was going to expect. It took some recoding, so I'm saving you all that work. But again, that's not the purpose of this entire series. The purpose of this series is not to create a UI, right? The whole purpose of the series is to learn how to map from different API structures. So technically speaking, this is kind of still part of the setup, all right? So if this looks like something that you think you should know, that you should know how to code like line by line on this part, that's not going to be the case. In real life, you're going to be building this stuff by chunks and testing it and then adding more to it and deleting some out of it. But in my case, since I already built it, I already know what to put. So we're going to go to the custom box, and the first thing that we're going to need in the custom box is going to be the use date, and you'll see that later it will come into effect and it will make more sense, but we are going to need it. You wouldn't know you need it until you're further down, but like I said, I'm saving you all that work. So, and then the next thing we're going to do is, because we're going to be building a UI, is we're going to need the help of material UI. We're going to need the card content. Oh my God, card content. We're gonna need card media, card action area. Yep, card action area, card media, typography, and box. So let me make sure that I have all this stuff taken care of. All these typos. All right, cool. And that is all gonna call from material. All right, cool. So now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and start coding my UI. So there are two pieces of data here that I want to make sure that are dynamic, okay? And that's going to be this side here and the actual data, okay? So I want to make sure that I can control these two pieces of data anywhere else. So I know that for a fact I'm going to be needing these two as my props. All right, So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to open up curly brackets so that I can destruct the way I want my props to be called. And I want it to be called data inside. Okay, now I know that right off the bat this is going to scream for React prop types, and I'm not using prop types yet. I'm not going to use it in this project because it's just to help show some stuff. So I'm going to disable React prop types from the entire file. Alright, that should go away. Alright, so now let's get to coding. Or actually not yet. Let's just first keep setting this up. Another thing that I want to set up is I want to set up a use state that is going to be called C leaders and set C leaders. And what this state is going to do is going to, hold on, there we go. It's going to create an empty array with the location of where my leaders are going to be inside. I'm saying that totally leaders. Sounds funny. This right here. So I want to make sure that these leaders right here, Eisenhower, MacArthur, all these guys, that they show up whenever I click on the country flag, right? So because it's going to be kind of like dynamic, I wanted to make sure that it's done by a click event. Therefore, I need to make sure that I have a state for it where I can pick it up, and I also a click event that I can turn it on and off with the toggle function. Right, so we're gonna do all of that. So now that I have my set my leaders and set leaders, then now the next thing is going to be creating that function, and I'm just going to, instead of writing it, I'm just gonna copy and paste it here. So if you need to pause this and take a minute, look at it, by all means do so. Oh, I made a mistake right here. I am going to use this as a alright, there we go. That's a little better. Alright, so set C, so C leaders and set C leaders, there you go. Alright, so I'm basically creating a function that is going to be reading the index of whatever I'm clicking on, and then based on that click that click on the item that I'm clicking, is going to create an index, grab the index for it, and then based on whichever one I click prior, it will know that if the one on the screen is already being clicked on or not, and then it will turn it off and then let me click the next one. And if I'm clicking on the same one, then it will just turn it off. But if I'm clicking on the next one, it removes the one from before that is there, and then it puts the new one on, so that it turns into a, like it only shows the ones that I'm clicking one at a time. So it's all written up there so you can read it, but basically that's what is going to happen there. And now we're actually going to start writing the stuff here. So first thing is we're going to create a box, okay? And a box is always the best way to write than div, because it's a little bit more customizable in UI and Material UI. So I would always recommend to use boxes. And inside that box, we're going to have, I believe, 3 boxes. Yep, 3 boxes. So we're gonna go grab this box here, and I'm gonna put 3 boxes in there. And these 3 boxes are going to be basically these 3 boxes are going to be basically the title page, not the title page, but the one that is going to say that on top of the flags is going to say good guys, and the other one is going to say bad guys. And then so that's basically what it's going to go on the first box. It's going to be just basically a typography, and I'll go ahead and I'm going to pick it up from here. I'm just going to jam it in there like that. And that's basically going to call the typography and add a variant in the component, and then in there I want to give that prop of side to it so that I can control it, so that I can then from the component that I'm using it, I can decide whether that's going to be a good guy or a bad guy. So I don't want this to be static, always the same label. I want it to be dynamic depending on the section, whether it's a good guy section or a bad guy section. It's going to say that. So I have to create a prop that I can throw here so that somewhere else I can catch that and label it, attach a value to it. So that's going to be the first one. The next thing I'm going to be doing is the label, the countries. So I'm going to be creating the countries next, and then I'm going to first create display flex. That's just CSS, and I'm gonna go ahead and grab that and give it to this other box as well, so that way it's already out of the way. Let's start building the first and I'm gonna go ahead and grab some copy here. For the first thing I want to do, I want to show you what is going to make all this mapping work, and that is going to be the map function. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to map the data, and the data, if you recall what I did, let me make sure that I write this up first before I explain this. The data is basically, at this point, it doesn't mean anything. It's only a prop that I'm attaching here. It will mean something when I use it, because I will then, when I use it, that's when I attach something to it, okay? And that's when it knows what to map. At this point right now, because I haven't attached any actual data from anywhere else, it's nothing. It means nothing. So, but it will work eventually, obviously. So I am going to map, and then I am going to have something to return, because I am using curly brackets. I am going to return, and then on the return, obviously I have to have a div first with a key, which is not going to be data key. I'm going to use, what am I going to use here? I'm going to use item and index. So I am going to use index for my, for my key. Right, and then item is basically how I am going to map this area. I'm going to map this, not area, I'm going to map this data and create items for everything that is found inside. So I'm going to copy this right here from my code so that so I don't have to rewrite it, but it basically is creating a card. Just going to make this a little bit smaller here. It's basically creating a bunch of cards where there's going to have an image in it, and it's going to have, that image is going to have, it's going to read map the area, find the country flag, and attach it to here, and then attach the country name here and the country name here. This on click is going to be fired at that main card, so that this toggle C leaders function can work. Okay, so now that that's working, then now we can move on to the next box right here. And the next box is basically, let me just follow my stuff here. Okay, so the next box, and it's going to be a little bit more complicated here. First of all, I am going to bring this here and copy. I'm just going to copy all of it. I'm going to copy all of it. It's better that way. So I'm going to copy all of that, because I am going to use basically all of that except this. I'm going to not use this. Not yet anyway. And the reason why I'm using all this, because this is basically the same structure every time you map, okay? The place you're going to map from and all that stuff, right? And I can still call it items, doesn't really matter. Because this right here, it doesn't pertain to this right here, because it's outside, it's closed. So now this item becomes a new item for this data only. Right, now in here, in this container where I'm mapping, I'm going to make first a quick distinction here. I am going to look at the C leaders, and then I'm going to make sure that it includes the index, right? And then if it includes the index, then I wanted to show something or not. So what you're looking at right there is basically this right here is basically a conditional statement. So in this point right here, after I map through this area, I'm gonna make first a decision to show something in here only if the C leaders include the index that I'm clicking on, and this is being picked up by setting it up here, and it's inside of this state. Okay, so now inside this box right here, I am going, which actually I'm going to add a little bit more CSS to that so that it looks good. So make sure you add that to it. Now inside that, and I'm gonna copy that and just explain it. Now inside that, I'm grabbing, for every item that is inside, I'm gonna grab the leader's data. So basically it's gonna map through all this data, and then inside all this data it's gonna find the leader's data, and inside this leader's data is gonna find all of these guys. Right? And then all of this leader data is gonna create a leader for each one of them. And then each leader is, I'm gonna grab the image, the name, and attach it in the places that I wanna attach it. It's basically kind of like this card here. It's very similar to this card. Okay, I could have actually gone further and create another component that captures all of this and make it even yet more reusable. But that's, I guess, too much, I guess. But it would definitely clean this up. But I don't want to, no reason to go down the rabbit hole that far. All right, so now we can go ahead and save this, because this is actually done, okay? And you don't see anything yet because you're not using it. All right, so now we gotta go to the array of objects again, and now that we have that component readily available to us, then we can start making use for it, okay? But guess what? We're gonna do that on the next video, because this, now that we have that custom box created, now we can actually start doing all of the pages, okay? This is where we actually gonna start working based on what I am really trying to teach in this series. So this is the beginning of the actual new thing. Everything up until now has all been just normal React stuff. So see you in the next one.